Our regularly scheduled program will not be seen at this time, so that we may bring you the following Channel 6 Sports Exclusive.
We are back live at the Daytona International Speedway. The Daytona 500 won last lap. And that last lap will go down as a memorable last lap, a record-tying last lap. Now only 3 drivers have won the Daytona 500 back-to-back. Sterling Marlin puts his name in the record books with a couple of drivers who are well-known, Cale Yarborough and Richard Petty. Of all the drivers who have raced here, all the famous names, only 3 have ever been able to win this race back-to-back. There is no doubt about it. All week long, Sterling Marlin has had the car to beat, and he proved it today. Let's take a look as they come to the finish line. Sterling Marlin being tailed by Dale Earnhardt. Dale Earnhardt has been to this track 17 times and has never won the Daytona 500. He has won 26 races here, but never this one. Sterling Marlin leads 105 laps here at the Daytona International Speedway today. This, the most important, the 200th lap. Across the finish line, Sterling Marlin and his crew, the Kodak crew of the car number 4. Monte Carlo, the winner. There you see him. You just saw him in victory lane today, back for the 2nd straight time. What a remarkable race, a race that got started under foggy conditions, interrupted by rain for an hour and 45 minutes. You never know what's going to happen when those cars have to be shut down for that length of time. Will they restart? Will they run the same as they did while the race was going in the early stages? We found out they ran just as well. What an exciting race it was, and we are going to recap it for you when we come back. Stay with us. We have comments from the drivers who were involved in accidents. We've got comments from Mike Joy from CBS Sports, who is along pit road. He's going to be joining us just out of victory lane. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
One Last Lap is sponsored by Winn-Dixie, your Southern Ford dealers, the Central Florida Phone Book, and Domino's Pizza.
Back live at the Daytona International Speedway. Good afternoon, everyone. Sterling Marlin has just won his 2nd straight Daytona 500, and what a race we had today. Sterling Marlin right now in victory lane, accepting the trophy, accepting all the honors that are accorded the Daytona 500 winner. There you see him, Sterling Marlin with his crew and with his family. They will be celebrating in the entire state of Tennessee tonight. One look at victory lane. What a celebration is going on there. Unfortunately, it was not a celebration today. We had our eyes on Rusty Wallace, a man who really wanted to at least finish this race, but as you saw, he went out late in the race. A lot of cars went out in this race. Let's start a recap now of some of the action today from the very beginning. And one guy sitting in the pit area with his eye on the start of this race. It was great to see Ernie Irvin sitting there watching the start. The start with Dale Jarrett on the pole and Dale Earnhardt right next to him. Here they come for the start of this Daytona 500. Dale Jarrett in the car number 28. He qualified the fastest. On the backstretch, Sterling Marlin, look at that move on the inside to start to show that he has what it takes to race today, what it takes that he has to win this race. Sterling Marlin right here, moving right in behind Dale Earnhardt as they come around for the first lap. Then on the backstretch, Sterling Marlin with Jeff Gordon right behind him takes the lead from Dale Earnhardt, and that's the way it's going to finish. Number 43, Bobby Hamilton, who started 25th. Richard Petty's car is showing that he has some strength early. On the 11th lap, though, Joe Nemechek gets loose up against the wall there. Now take a look at this. Watch Joe Nemechek getting loose, cuts across the track. Just as he does, he nails Brett Bodine. Both cars sliding across the asphalt pavement right forward. Ouch! Joe Nemechek head-on into the protective wall down there across the apron that separates the track from pit road. Let's look at it down low. Now watch the action as it's going to come right at you. Once again, Joe Nemechek right into the wall. That has to give him a headache. Obviously not a happy man as Dave Erickson caught up with him. Joe Nemechek in the garage area, not very happy. Things got a little hectic out there early, and Dave Erickson catches up with him as soon as he's available. Dave?
I'm going to say that it's a tough break for the Burger King Monte Carlo today. I think that Steve Grissom and his spotter better learn how to communicate a little bit better. You know, they've been having spotters meetings all week trying to get the spotters not to get in predicaments like that. And I had a whole fender up alongside, and he must have stayed clear because he just come right up and put me up in the wall. But tough break for the the Burger King Chevrolet. Hey, we'll go get them next week at Rockingham.
First Daytona must have been kind of a rough impression at the track.
Okay, Mike, that is Joe Nemechek. A real tough break for the first-year owner-driver of the Burger King Chevrolet. Mike?
Thank you very much, Dave. Things a little rough for Joe Nemechek out there in the early going, but like he said, he hopes things are better at Rockingham. Let's take one last look at that accident. Joe Nemechek, real hard hit into the wall. Of course, he's from Lakeland, Florida, making a start here this week. In fact, it's his first start in the Daytona 500. Does not last long. Gets loose coming out of turn 4 and right smack into the wall. On the restart, Sterling Marlin and Jeff Gordon are followed by Mark Martin. And here they go, restarting the Daytona 500, but just 3 laps later. Into the tri-oval. Davy Jones gets loose. He will spin into the pit. Look out, he'll race again. But I'll tell you, as he goes ripping through the pit area, some hearts have to be beating by crew members down that line. Here he goes, one more time. The asphalt, they slow down, but when they hit the grass, it's just like hitting thin ice. Up against the wall, hearts beating fast down along pit road as Davy Jones goes cruising down through there. But back on the track, it's Sterling Marlin showing his muscle again, along with Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin. Then on the 29th lap, take a look at this. Steve Kinzer, a rookie, and Bill Parsons get together. Coming out of turn 4. And Dave Erickson, once again, in the garage area, catches up with Bill Parsons.
Mike, we're here with Phil Parsons, who was collected up in an accident that also collected Steve Kinzer. Phil, what happened out there?
Well, I got a run on Steve going down the front straightaway and then pulled up beside him going down in turn 1. And obviously, Steve didn't see I was there, and his spotter didn't tell him I was there, so he turned left to go down the bottom of the racetrack, and I happened to be there, and that got him sideways, and then carried us both up into the wall.
Okay, well, I guess like anybody else, you're looking forward to Rockingham next week?
Well, we hope so. Our sponsorship situation is a little bit up in the air right now. Ultra Custom Wheels came on board here to help us out, which we really appreciate. But we're in some negotiations, but nothing imminent right now. Nothing with a pen in hand. So we hope to put something together and hope to run them all. But if not, then we'll probably back up to a limited schedule.
Okay, thanks a lot, Phil. I certainly hope everything starts working out for you this season. Okay, that is Bill Parsons, Mike. Unfortunate break for him, and we'll be looking for him hopefully next week at Rockingham. Back to you.
We sure will. I'm joined now by Mike Joy from CBS Sports. Fast trip from Victory Lane, Mike.
What a marathon, Mike. I tell you, this race, it certainly took all darn day to run, and it still came down to your typical Daytona finish. It had just all the drama that I think anybody could ask for. But one question still remains unanswered. Can Dale Earnhardt win the Daytona 500?
Well, in the early going, with all the accidents and stoppages we had to even be wondering if we were ever going to finish the Daytona 500 today.
Well, of course, you have to have 100 laps in to have the race official. We didn't have that at the rain delay, but came back with what I think was a really competitive event. Sterling Marlin, I've said all week that, and I said on this morning's show, that was clearly the fastest car here. But I can't believe they told him on the radio with 25 laps to go, if you can just keep your cool until 5 to go, we guarantee you will win. Wish you could guarantee your ratings like that.
I certainly do. I will say that Jeff Gordon, as they were making those final laps and Dale Earnhardt came breezing by Jeff Gordon, he radioed his pit crew and said, this one is Dale Earnhardt's. He's just got too much out here.
Well, he did. He certainly had no trouble catching Sterling, but he was real tough off turn 2. Catching him is one thing, but passing the fastest car here is yet another.
Well, now that we've had a couple of accidents, let's return to the track. Here we go again. There's your winner, Sterling Marlin in victory lane. But back on the track, Jeff Gordon, followed by Sterling Marlin. We're nearing the 44th lap on the backstretch. John Andretti, Derek Cope get together on the backstretch, and what a melee this is. That's John Andretti. Now, Sterling Marlin and Jeff Gordon, followed by Mark Martin. The race continues on the French stretch, though, right out of the tri-oval. Derek Cope, who gets back into the race, blows a tire. He spins. What a tough day it was for Derek Cope.
He had come around after flat spotting a tire and tried to get all the way around to pit without losing a lap or pitting while pit road was closed and have to go to the end of the longest line. But the tires gave out on him, and around he went.
And here we go on the restart with Jeff Gordon, Sterling Marlin, Dale Earnhardt, Ken Schrader, and Dale Jarrett leading the way. We're approaching 125 miles into this race, and already there has been enough excitement for one 500.
And only a quarter distance so far. You notice that at the front of the pack there wasn't a lot of side-by-side racing, but you saw that group just a second ago at the back of the pack, the jostling, and I think Morgan Shepherd passed more cars than anyone today. He came from the back to the front several times.
Quite a performance by him, and when we get back, we're going to continue our highlight coverage. One last lap around the Daytona 500. Stay with us. At the Daytona International Speedway for one last lap here in the Daytona 500. You're looking at victory lane. Sterling Marlin, back-to-back winner of the Daytona 500. We've said it before, only two other drivers have done it, Richard Petty and Cale Yarborough. But as Mike and I have just been talking, not only was there a lot of action out there on the speedway, right here along pit road there was a lot of action, and it all circulated around tires.
This place looked more like the Daytona flea market than Daytona International Speedway. Goodyear brought plenty of tires to anticipate a normal race, but the track service, the track ages every year, and it was a little more abrasive than I think the teams expected. So each team wanted to have new tires to put on at every pit stop. They didn't know how many caution flags there would be, so they would like to mount up 8 or 10 sets of tires. Goodyear didn't bring enough for them to be able to do that. Some teams, like Rusty Wallace, had as few as 3 new sets. So when a car would fall out of the race, it was like an auction. For teams that wanted tires. So to prevent that, NASCAR's Les Richter and Leo Mel of Goodyear and his people went around trying to take tires at a fair price from teams that had fallen out of the race and allocate them to teams that didn't have as many new sets as others. Sometimes that worked pretty well, sometimes it didn't.
Well, a team could certainly cover their expenses here by selling 4 sets of tires to the highest bidder.
Well, and that's what they had hoped to avoid. The tires are about $300 a piece, and they were trying to keep that fair market value. It kind of reminds me of the gas crisis in 1973, where everybody had to have a full tank, and they were almost like hoarding gasoline. Or remember the toilet paper shortage from the Johnny Carson show? He told a joke about that one night, and everybody ran to the stores and bought toilet paper like there would never be any more.
Well, on that,
yeah, please,
let's go back to the track and pick up the action. We're about a quarter of the way through the race. And back on the track, you see them lined up, Jeff Gordon, Sterling Marlin, Ken Schrader, and Mike. Those seem to be the guys up front all day. And here we are on the backstretch, though, just about as soon as they get started, Mike Wallace and Jeff Purvis get into it.
Yeah, Purvis comes to the inside, and 2 cars just narrowly miss him. There's Mike Wallace's Ford up against the wall, the Junie Donlevy car that always runs well here. And there's Jeff Purvis's new ride. Here's how it happened.
Boy, that wall along the backstretch, you talk about the surface being abrasive. That is an abrasive surface. And Dave Erickson catches up with Jeff Purvis in the garage area.
Mike, Jeff Purvis is coming out right now. Let's listen to what happened.
today? A lot of bad luck yesterday and then again today. What happened?
Well, we just, Mike Wallace got loose coming up the corner, and just, when he corrected for it, it just hit him right into me, and, I mean, it was just a racing accident. You know, the Jack Brewer barbecue car was running good, and we had a lot of high hopes for the car, to be honest with you, and, you know, we're just trying to hang on and make some adjustments as we win, and just didn't have time.
There's been a lot of conflict. Yeah, sounds like it's just another one of those racing incidents, Mike. Collected up Jeff Purvis and Mike Wallace. Back to you.
Well, you can see real quickly the record number of caution flags here is 11, and in the early going, we were thinking, well, we could either tie or break that record today.
Well, there was a lot of strategy here, though, on this caution flag. Mark Martin and Todd Bodine had made unscheduled pit stops. So under this caution, they each came in and took gas only, no tires. That saved each of them about 5 seconds on that pit stop. Look where they ended up on the restart.
Right up there. Let's go back to the track right now, and Mike just said it. You're going to see it. On the restart, Mark Martin has the lead. Todd Bodine is right there with him. Jeff Gordon is third, and here we go. Just 7 laps later, though, here comes the yellow flag because it's raining.
Some of the drivers were really upset because the rain was rather significant in turns 1 and 2, but it was scarcely a sprinkle here at the start-finish line. Finally, we got some rain on pit road, and we went under red.
Of course, one of those who was upset is Mark Martin. Mark Martin was on his two-way back to his crew saying, why don't they throw the red flag? Of course, he was leading at the time.
Yes, you know, when you're leading, it's always raining too hard, and when you're the second-place guy, it's fine. Let's go.
Well, they take an hour and 45-minute delay. We're not going to be gone that long, but we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll pick the action up again. Stay with us. Back live at the Daytona International Speedway. The celebration continues.
Yeah, that's a big award right there, the A.E. Clevite Engine Builder of the Race Award, and it's big because Runt Pittman won this race for Sterling Marlin. He had that unique sounding car, that high pitch, with a unique exhaust system from the piston on out through the headers and the collectors, and Runt Pittman is every bit as much of the reason that Sterling Marlin won this race as the driver's right foot.
We talked about it all week, and it seemed like Sterling Marlin did have it dialed in. And the twin 125-mile qualifiers, nobody could touch him. You mentioned the engine builder.
Well, an engine is just an air pump, Mike. You bring air and fuel, a mixture in, you compress it, you ignite it, and that force pushes the piston down, propels the car, and then you push that air out. So an engine's an air pump. With the restrictor plate, you're trying to throw a volume of air the size of a grapefruit through 4 holes in this plate, each the size of a grape. So I think, I'm not sure, but I think what Runt Pittman did is from the piston on out through the cylinder head and down through the exhaust system, the headers and the pipes, made that whole area smaller. If you got a fat garden hose and no water pressure, the water comes out kind of slow. You run a smaller hose or a small nozzle, you can get a lot of pressure. And when those header pipes all come together in the collector, they scavenge the air. The pulse in one pipe will help pull the air out of the next one. I think that's what Runt Pittman has found. Now, 2 other engine builders told me yesterday they tried that. It didn't work. Well, it sure worked for Runt Pittman. Something did.
Well, if it's a secret, it won't last long because one of the most interesting aspects of this race right now is going on back in the garage area. NASCAR officials will totally dismantle Sterling Marlin's car just to make sure, we talked about it before the race, that he has obeyed all the rules. And if they see little variances in the engine, I'm certain that that word is going to get out exactly what he did to win.
Well, they've kept that car covered up in the garage area all week. Everybody in the world, from CBS to NASCAR to the other teams, have tried to crawl under it and just see what it is about that exhaust system. Now, when they put it in there up on jack stands, perhaps some folks will get a peek and figure out what to do for the next restrictor plate race.
It won't be a secret for long. Nothing is. Well, we have waited an hour and 45 minutes now for the rains to stop. Earlier today, it rained here at the Speedway. Here they are after the jet blowers have dried the track. Now the cars are out for 6 to 7 laps. also drying the track off. And here we go. We're ready for a restart. And Jeff Gordon has the lead. Sterling Marlin is right there with him. And folks, we're telling you, it's tight racing. Look at this, side by side, 2 by 2. Mike, this is the kind of racing we like.
Look at old DW, number 17 there, Darrell Waltrip, trying to win his second 500 right down there on the bottom and getting it to the front.
Lap number 98 coming up. Remarkable driving by Todd Bodine. Take a look at this. He gets loose out of turn 4. What a ride. Great job by Ricky Craven right there. Almost got caught up in this. He misses Todd Bodine.
Todd didn't have a lot of sets of tires, so they really ran him a long time trying to keep him out there and conserve what they did have for good new tires. And Troy Selberg told me they left him out just a little too long. He came around and later retired with engine woes.
Now, Todd is out of the race, but as Dave Erickson finds out, he wasn't out of the race because of that spin.
Mike, for the second straight year, another tough break for Todd Bodine, who basically had to call it quits early. Let's see if we can try to get a word with Todd. Todd, what happened out there today?
Well, it looks like the motor, something let go in the motor, part failure, probably a wrist pin or something like that. It's a shame if, Factory Store Sport was running great. I spun myself out, I messed up and lost it, but, we saved the car, and we'll take it to Talladega and hopefully run as good down there.
Did the spin cause any damage to the car?
No, the spin didn't hurt the car at all. It was running great. I was coming back through traffic. I got boxed in there when the motor let go, but it was running great.
Any close calls or problems before that?
No.
Well, Todd Bodine had a very strong car, Mike. He had a strong car last year, too. He had to call it a day early last year. He did again today, and as you heard him, he's just looking forward to the next race. Back to you.
He was one of the 2 young drivers I picked to watch today, Todd Bodine and Bobby Labonte, and they both had great runs while they lasted. Neither one was around at the finish.
There seemed to be more blame being laid on other drivers and mishaps. We've had a couple of them say the spotters need to be paying more attention. We've had spotters meetings all week. They're telling guys they're safe to come in and they're not in the IROC race. That was a claim.
Let me tell you the problem with this. At this racetrack, the spotter is often, well, he's 3/4 and almost a mile away from the action. And that's really tough to see, to call a driver clear to move up a lane or to move down a lane. I don't know what the answer to that is. Maybe it's long binoculars or long lenses like you have on your cameras or that we do at CBS, or maybe multiple spotters around the racetrack. But that job is so important, to call clear when a driver's able to move up or able to move down. And this is not the last incident we'll see where that was a factor.
And because of the importance of this race, I think there was a lot of frustration out there today. Rusty Wallace certainly showing that he was frustrated. And we'll show you his accident and why he was frustrated coming up in a little bit. It seems that a lot of drivers were had that attitude.
Well, everybody comes to Daytona with a great deal of optimism and promise for the new season. But this is the only sport that has its Super Bowl first. And when you get turned down at the first dance, yes, you're going to be very disappointed, especially when it's the biggest one of the year.
Of course, this race counts as far as the points go, and it counts a lot. And Rusty Wallace has missed out on winning championships because he can't finish the big races.
Well, it's this big race here and Talladega to some extent. Everywhere else, Rusty wins. He's the winningest driver on the circuit for the last 2 years in a row, but he comes to the Daytona 500 and he's snake bit. Earnhardt snake bit. He's never won it, but at least he finishes the race. Something seems to always happen to Rusty. It's like that little guy in Little Abner in the comic strip that used to have the cloud kind of floating over him all the time. Joe, and his name started with B, had a whole bunch of consonants. I can't pronounce it. Nobody could. That was the idea. But that's Rusty here at Daytona.
Well, we're talking about Rusty, and when we come back, we'll show you why he's frustrated. Stay with us. Live at the Daytona International Speedway for one last lap. The lights are on. If these guys had to go any longer, we would have had to put headlights on these cars and brake lights, something I don't think we'll ever see in NASCAR Winston Cup racing, Michael.
Well, there are some folks today wish there'd been some brake lights out there, I think, but no, it's starting to look and feel like the Daytona 24 hours. The temperature has dropped about 20 degrees since the start of the race, and it's really amazing we didn't have more engine trouble given the wide variance in humidity and temperature we saw today.
Well, even you and I discussed this before the race even started. These drivers have been here, and as everybody in Central Florida knows, the final days of this week, the temperature was in the high 80s, mid to high 80s. These cars were all set up for that temperature. They get here to the track this morning, fog, cool weather. It's got to be a chief mechanic's nightmare.
Not nice to fool with Mother Nature.
Absolutely not.
And the race played away from the hands of fellows like Bill Elliott and Dale Earnhardt. Elliott told us during the rain delay that he thought a sunny day and a slick track would work to his advantage. Earnhardt's car was set up for handling, not for all-out top speed on the Thursday qualifying race, and I presume again for today. They had things they could do to speed that car up, take some of the stability out of it if they got a greasy racetrack. So perhaps nobody but Sterling Marlin, really had a shot at these conditions and a really perfect day.
Well, we talk about the drivers and how they progressed around the track as the race wore on. Those guys feeling, hey, this may be my year. One of them was Rusty Wallace. About 3/4 of the way into the race, even further, Rusty Wallace thinks, hey, this could be it. And then Bobby Hamilton in car 43 gets loose right next to the wall and tags Rusty Wallace.
The caution was already out when this happened. That's the shame of it. And it appeared that Bobby Hamilton was either racing Rusty to the flag or just came up on the outside of him without realizing Rusty would move in that lane. But boy, what a tough break for Rusty to be denied Daytona once again through no fault of his own.
And I think that's what's so frustrating about it. He sat in that car for an extended period of time just feeling, how in the world could this happen to me again?
And he had a decent car. I'm not sure he had a winning car, but he had a good car.
I think Rusty Wallace just wanted a finishing car at this race. I think it would have boosted his morale and confidence a lot if he could have just walked away from here saying, I finished. It would have been a win for him.
Mike, it's been 6 years since Rusty had a top 10 finish at Daytona, and that was 7.
Well, Dave Erickson catches up with Rusty Wallace just as he comes out of the infield care center. Dave?
Mike, Rusty Wallace simply cannot catch a break here at Daytona. He's coming up out of the infield care center. He seems to be okay. Rusty, can you tell us what happened, Rusty, out there?
This caution flag came out. We're all coming off that turn, slowing down for the caution. The 43 never slowed down.
You just can't catch a break here, can you?
I can't believe it, man. I just slowed down. That was it.
Rusty Wallace, again, simply cannot catch a break here at Daytona. He's involved with crashes almost every year. Now he's being mobbed by the reporters. Mike, back to you.
All right, thank you very much. You got a sense right there. He's really disappointed, Mike.
Well, I think disappointed is the calmest word you could use. Frustrated is the big word. Rusty comes down here every year with a shot to win the big race. He was in the lead draft 2 out of the last 3 years when he got involved in accidents, and here pedaling along, running a good conservative race, saving what he had for the end, and the caution comes out and somebody bumps in the back of him. I've not heard Bobby Hamilton's side of this story, so no point getting too deep into it, but what a shame for Wallace.
Well, here's the celebration going on in Victory Lane. This is what the photographers hate and the car crews and drivers love, the champagne spray over everybody there in Victory Lane. Sterling Marlin.
And the Gatorade dunk. He was getting that as well as he was spraying the champagne on everybody else.
Getting an opportunity to see some of the celebrations going on there in Victory Lane by Sterling Marlin, and he deserves it. Let's go to the final laps. We're 1 lap around. Here we go for the incredible finish of the Daytona 500. Let's take a look. What an incredible driving performance right here. Sterling Marlin out in front of Dale Earnhardt.
At turn 2, Earnhardt will get as close as he's going to get. The lap before, he was right on Marlin's bumper. I couldn't believe Earnhardt even got to this stage to pass all those cars to have a chance to challenge.
And the winner of the 1995
And Marlin, by a couple of car lengths, did what his crew guaranteed him at 25 laps to go. So you'll just cool it till 5 to go. We guarantee you a win. Hard to believe.
Well, and right now, let's go to the garage area. Dave Erickson has Darrell Waltrip there. Let's see what he has to say. Dave?
Darrell, man, well, you look wiped out. What kind of run did you have out there today? What did you think about that?
Oh, we were real happy. We kind of worked our way to the front, and then we'd slip back a little bit. We were just
really not trying to do a whole lot, trying to get up to the front at the end. That was the big thing, and things were going really well, and then we broke the gearbox. They dropped the jack, and I started to lead the pits. It just shattered the gearbox all to pieces, and had to put another in it. That ended our dream weekend.
You had quite a battle going on with your brother in the early stages.
Well, I had a good run with a lot of people, and just right there behind that lead pack all the time. I was getting better and better, and we adjusted on the car as we went along, getting better and better, and I just think I'd have been there when it counted.
Okay.
Had a good car on old tires, that was the thing.
Okay, thanks a lot. Mike, that's Darrell Waltrip. Obviously not having the run he would have liked, but nevertheless a strong showing for his Monte Carlo. Back to you.
I'll tell you, Darrell did a great job, his crew did, just getting that car back into the race. When you leave the pits, it's a very difficult transition. These cars are not drag racers. They're meant to run steady at 190 miles an hour, and it's a tremendous load on the drivetrain to try to pull one of these out of the pits and accelerate up to the pit road speed of 65 miles an hour. And something happened. They just tore the transmission out of it. But give Pete Peterson and that Western Auto crew a call, because in less than 30 laps, they had a transmission back in Darrell's car, and he was out there to try to pick up a few positions and some points.
Well, one guy who started this race in the best possible positions was Dale Jarrett, right there on the pole in the car number 28, a familiar place for that car. Of course, the chief mechanic on that car, or the man who owns that car, is Robert Yates, and Dave Erickson has caught up with him right now. Dave?
Mike, we're with Robert Yates, owner of Dale Jarrett's number 28 Ford. Robert, you started from the pole and finished 5th today. What are your thoughts about the run?
Well, you know, we put a lot of effort, brand new car here for the pole. It ran fast. We had 2 other cars, one that ran second here last year, and the car that ran good here in July. This new car seemed to be much quicker, especially for qualifying, because that's what we worked on for 2 months. And once qualifying was over with, and we got with some cars, we didn't have the kind of car we needed. We just kept working and working, and I'll tell you, we changed probably everything but the radiator this morning, because that's the rule, you can't change the radiator and the number. And we're pretty pleased with it. You know, we made a chassis adjustment every single stop. Our pit crew could almost keep pace with even pulling rubbers and putting rubbers and doing all those things in, and still come out not losing too many positions on the pit stop. So it's just a good team. Larry McReynolds making all the right decisions, and Ernie Irvin helping us with those decisions. I think probably the highlight of this week, pole's great. We all want to get the pole, but the fact that Ernie's here and Ernie's helping us with this thing, and he's really, you know, involved in the chassis stuff now. Keep sharp on that, so when he comes back, he'll know what's under the car. Because, you know, as we go along, there's things that change, and the fact that he and Dale's work well together certainly makes life for Robert Yates very pleasant.
Okay. Thank you so much, Robert. Good luck to you next week. And that is Robert Yates, owner of the number 28 Texaco Haviland Ford, driven today by Dale Jarrett. Mike?
Of course, when we started this show, we started it with Ernie Irvin sitting right behind the pits. It was a real thrill to see him sitting down there watching the race.
Ernie's going to do some races with us on cable, beginning at Rockingham next week, and I'm really looking forward to working with him. He's going to have a lot of fun with us. I know he'd rather be in that race car, and that's a tough situation for Dale Jarrett to be in. Ernie is his advisor, but Dale knows that Ernie's getting healthy, and one day there's going to be a tap on his shoulder, and there might be 2 of those Robert Yates Fords in the garage area, with Dale Jarrett in one and Ernie Irvin in the other.
Well, I know I talked with Dale this week, and he said, I have been guaranteed by the Yates team that I have a spot with them for taking over the car this year. It's not just a one-year deal. So that's encouraging news for Dale.
That's great, because I think this is Dale Jarrett's best chance yet to win a championship. He's with a championship caliber team. If he stays healthy and they keep putting the power and the cars under him, he'll be a real threat to Earnhardt and the rest of the contenders for this championship. The other young fellow I talked about at the top of your show, just before CBS went on the air, was Bobby Labonte. His first drive for Joe Gibbs, the team that won the Daytona 500 in 1993 with Dale Jarrett aboard. And so here's Bobby Labonte hopping in there after a couple of seasons with Bill Davis and just doing a tremendous job. He was up there in the front 4 with less than 25 laps to go. Then he got himself into a bit of trouble, and Dave Erickson caught up with Bobby Labonte in the garage area.
Mike, maybe 15 laps from the finish, the day comes to a close for Bobby Labonte and Joe Gibbs Chevrolet here. What a tremendous run to it. It ended early. Bobby, can you tell us what happened out there?
Well, I got on the outside of the 16 car. It got away from me. I don't know if the left rear tire went down or what. Terry said he noticed something went down in the car before it spun out. But I don't know.
You were running so strong and to come so close to the finish and then have it end this way with the spin into the wall, that's got to be the most frustrating way to start a season off.
I don't know that it's all frustrating, but it isn't what we wanted to see, so that's the way it goes.
All right. Good luck next week, Bobby. That's an obviously disappointed Bobby Labonte having to wrap up the Daytona 500 with a crash just a few laps from the finish. Mike, what a way to go. Back to you.
Well, sure, because he's cruising around and he's going, I'm going to finish in the top 5 at the Daytona 500. My first ride in this car. Life is wonderful. Kablam.
Well, if you had to sum it up in 2 words, you could probably say frustrations on the part of a lot of the drivers and elation on the part of one driver, Sterling Marlin. The whole state of Tennessee, I said it earlier, has to be celebrating for the 2nd time after the Daytona 500.
He had the fastest car. There was absolutely no doubt about that, and I think Sterling showed us a lot as a driver. He did keep his poise, kept his cool, made the move when he had to, got out in front of that pack, and here came Earnhardt. And when you've got that black car breathing right down your neck, thoughts have got to go through your minds. Sterling drove a great race, did a cool job, got himself to victory lane, won the 500 for the 2nd year in a row. Wow, only the 3rd man to do that.
And what a race it was. We're glad you were with us throughout it all. From 11 o'clock this morning to right now, it has been a marathon day for the race car drivers and you, your race fans. Thanks for joining us. For Mike Joy, I'm Mike Storms. Have a great week, everyone.
Daytona 500, one last lap, was sponsored by Winn-Dixie, your Southern Ford dealers, the Central Florida Phone Book, and Domino's Pizza.
Oh.